Please like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps out the channel. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going back in time to Skidmore, Missouri in 1981.
Okay.
A town that was just gripped by fear.
Oh, wow.
A really volatile bully.
Yeah.
And a murder with no witnesses.
Huh.
Or were there.
Interesting.
This case has fascinated people for decades, and we're going to try to unpack why.
I think what's so interesting about this is that it forces us to consider the line between justice and revenge.
Right.
And sometimes that line can get blurry.
Exactly. So for everyone listening, imagine this.
Okay.
There's this man who is so notorious that parents would use his name to keep their kids in line.
Wow.
That was Ken Rex McElroy.
Okay.
He was untouchable and operated outside the law.
Really?
He wasn't just a petty criminal. He was a force of chaos in this town.
The sources you provided really paint a picture of that fear that he cultivated.
Yeah.
It wasn't just crime. It was a systematic campaign of intimidation.
He was committing crimes, though.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking theft, arson, assault.
Right. He even shot a man over a hunting dog.
It's true, the list of offenses is long and disturbing.
Yeah.
But what really sets McElroy apart was the psychological grip he had on the people.
Right.
He understood the power of fear and how to use it to his advantage.
Yeah.
Like, there are stories of him sitting outside people's homes with a rifle if they even looked at him wrong.
Can you imagine living like that? That constant fear?
It's just awful.
Knowing that any little thing you do could set this guy off.
It shows how the lack of justice just tears apart a community.
Yeah.
People get isolated, afraid to trust anyone, afraid to even talk to their neighbors.
It's sad.
Really is.
And this went on for years. It wasn't like the town wasn't trying to stop him.
No, they definitely tried.
Yeah.
But McElroy was very good at manipulating the legal system. He always had lawyers who could find loopholes, and his trials would always get delayed.
It must felt like they were completely powerless.
It did.
What was it like for the people living there? Was there any story that stood out to you? Yeah, one story that I remember was about this farmer who testified against McElroy in a cattle theft case.
Oh, no.
And then in retaliation, McElroy burned down his barn.
Oh, come on.
Destroyed the guy's whole livelihood.
Awful.
It was just this endless cycle of him doing something horrible and the town getting no justice.
So it's not just about his actions, but the system failing the people.
Exactly. And that failure really had an impact. It
Yeah.
created this feeling that they weren't safe, that the law couldn't or wouldn't protect them.
Wow. And it wasn't just property crimes and intimidation either, right?
Right.
There was some really disturbing allegations about McElroy's behavior toward young women.
That's another really troubling part of this story.
Yeah.
McElroy is accused of taking advantage of young girls, some as young as 12.
That's terrible.
And he would marry them to avoid statutory rape charges.
Oh, my gosh.
Imagine being a parent in that town,
I can't imagine.
knowing that this guy was out there and no one could stop him.
It must have been terrifying.
It was. And that feeling of helplessness,
Yeah.
that feeling that the system was against them, is crucial to understanding what happened next.
So we have this truly scary guy, Ken Rex McElroy, who just does whatever he wants for years,
Yeah.
and the town is just terrorized.
Yeah.
But then something happened
Yes.
that pushes everything over the edge.
That's right.
Right. The shooting of Bo Bowenkamp.
Right. In 1980, McElroy shot Bo, a well-respected elderly grocer, over a really small disagreement.
Over what?
Something small, I can't remember the details.
And you'd think that would be it.
Yeah, you would.
That finally he would face the law.
Right.
But
But he gets off.
he gets off.
He does.
For
Is released on bond and allowed to go back to Skidmore.
No way.
And it's what he does when he gets back that really makes the town mad.
What did he do?
He threatened Bo again.
He threatened him again.
He did. He was waving his rifle around saying he was going to kill him.
Oh, my God.
It was just a show of power
Yeah.
to remind everyone who was in charge.
That is unbelievable.
It really is. Can you imagine?
I know, it's insane.
The town's just seething.
Yeah.
All that anger and fear.
It makes sense that they'd reach a breaking point.
Oh, definitely.
Especially back then, in the 80s, in rural America, I'm guessing guns were pretty common.
Oh, yeah. Everyone had a gun.
Was there any talk of vigilantism before the shooting?
People were definitely talking.
Mm-hmm.
There's this growing feeling that the system had failed.
Right.
And they had to do something themselves.
So the Bowenkamp shooting and those threats were the final straw.
Doloi.
The town was at its limit.
Yeah, all that frustration and anger just boiled over.
So then July 10th, 1981,
Huh?
McElroy's in his truck,
And gunshots.
What?
2 shots, and McElroy's dead.
Just like that.
Middle of the day.
Wow.
Town square was packed.
And this guy who had terrorized them for years was just gone.
Just gone.
What was the reaction?
Chaos at first.
Yeah.
So much confusion. And then the silence.
Really?
It was eerie.
But the sources say there were over 40 witnesses.
Right.
What do you mean silence?
That's the craziest part. 40 people there.
Yeah.
No one said who did it.
You're kidding?
It was like a collective amnesia.
Were they all just in shock? Or was it something more?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Were they too scared to talk?
Mm.
Or did they make a pact to protect the shooter?
Did the police believe that no one saw anything?
What else could they do?
Right?
No witnesses.
Yeah.
The investigation went nowhere.
So they had the grand jury.
They did, but it was useless.
Yeah?
No one was talking.
Even McElroy's wife, Trina, she was in the truck.
She said she saw nothing.
Wow.
Or at least that's what she told the police.
It's like the fear didn't go away.
No.
It morphed into something else.
It did.
A shared secret.
Like a bond of silence
Yeah.
protecting whoever killed him.
Did the FBI investigate?
Oh, yeah, the case was huge.
It makes sense.
Made national news.
Wow.
The FBI came in, but they hit the same wall.
No witnesses.
Nope.
So they never found out who killed McElroy.
Never.
Did anyone ever face charges?
Nope. The case is still unsolved.
Wow.
Trina sued the town later
Really?
for wrongful death,
Oh,
but it was thrown out.
so Skidmore got away with it.
It seems that way.
What happened to the town afterward?
On the surface, things went back to normal. The fear went away, but that day
Yeah.
and that silence, that had to have some lasting effect.
It's like the whole town was involved in the crime.
Yeah, it really makes you think about what happens when people lose faith in the system,
Right.
when the police and courts fail them,
So they take matters into their own hands.
which isn't always a good thing.
Right. That brings up so many ethical questions.
Definitely.
The Skidmore case really shows how complicated justice can be.
It does. What's right and wrong.
Right.
Sometimes the lines get really blurry.
It makes you wonder, like, did they ever, the people of Skidmore, really come to terms with what happened?
I think about that a lot. Yeah.
On the one hand, they suffered through years of torment under McElroy.
Right.
His death brought them peace, a sense of safety they hadn't felt in so long.
Makes sense that they wouldn't want to dig all that up again.
Right. But on the other, a man was killed,
Yeah.
shot in broad daylight, tons of witnesses,
Yeah.
and no one was held responsible.
That has to weigh on them, right?
Of course, the research shows a whole spectrum of responses.
What did you say?
Some people felt a sense of closure,
Oh,
like justice was served,
right.
even if it was unconventional.
But others were clearly troubled by it, right?
Oh, yeah, wrestling with the morality of it all.
It's like the town itself was part of the crime.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It really highlights what happens when a community loses faith in its institutions.
Right.
The
Yeah.
police, the courts. When those fail,
Yeah.
people start looking for other solutions.
Solutions that aren't always ethical.
Exactly.
The Skidmore case is a good example of just how complicated justice can be.
It is. Like, what is right and wrong?
Yeah. Those lines can get so blurred.
What do you think happened that day?
Mm.
Was it planned? Was it just one person?
The truth is probably lost forever,
Yeah,
hidden in that town's silence.
right.
There are so many theories,
I bet.
but without any witnesses, we'll never know for sure.
And what about McElroy himself?
Mm.
Was he just born bad, or was it his upbringing?
That's another tough one.
Right.
The sources mention a rough childhood,
Okay.
abusive, violent from a young age.
But he wasn't all bad, right?
Well, there are moments of, like, charisma,
Kind of
even
thing.
kindness. It's complicated.
It does seem like the more we learn,
Yeah.
the more questions we have.
That's what makes it so interesting.
So what's the takeaway from all this, from our deep dive into the Skidmore mystery?
I think it shows just how delicate law and order can be,
Hmm.
how dangerous unchecked power is,
Yeah.
and the lasting damage of fear and silence.
It's a reminder that darkness can hide anywhere,
It can,
even in the most peaceful places.
waiting for the right moment.
Yeah.
And that some questions just don't have answers.
Well, we went back to Skidmore, Missouri,
We did.
explored the life and death of Ken Rex McElroy,
Uh-huh.
and tackled some really tough questions.
We did.
But ultimately, the truth remains a mystery,
It does.
locked away in a town that chose to stay silent.
A fascinating case.
Yeah, fascinating and disturbing.
It is.
It really shows us that the past never really goes away.
And that sometimes the search for justice
Yeah.
can take us to some dark places.
We hope this deep dive gave you a new way to look at this mystery.
I hope so.
We'd love to hear what you think.
Definitely.
So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps out the channel. Until next time, keep diving.